Imagine you're standing at the edge of a buffet, eyes wide, stomach rumbling, and a voice inside you whispers, "Just one slice of cake." Yet moments later, you find yourself marching to the gym, laptop closed, and a kale smoothie in hand. What invisible force tipped the scales? Welcome to What Is, the show that takes the slippery, the squeaky, and the downright puzzling aspects of everyday life and shines a light on them. Today we're tackling willpower, that elusive mental muscle we all claim to have, yet somehow misplaced when the Wi-Fi password is 123456. We're about to dissect, debate, and maybe even laugh at the science of self-control. Defining the indefinable. Willpower, at its core, is the capacity to override an immediate impulse in service of a longer-term goal. Psychologists often call it self-regulation or executive function. But let's be honest, those terms sound like they belong in a corporate memo, not a late-night snack debate. Think of willpower as the brain's internal bouncer. It decides whether the rowdy crowd of cravings gets past the velvet rope of your goals. Unlike a bouncer, however, willpower isn't a static statue. It ebbs, flows, and sometimes takes a nap right when you need it most. In everyday language, we might say, "I have the willpower to resist that extra cookie." But the reality is far messier. Our willpower is a blend of biology, belief, environment, and sheer stubbornness. So when we ask, what is willpower? We're really asking how a squishy organ inside our skull can convince us to skip dessert, hit the snooze button less, or finally learn to play the ukulele. A brief historical tour. The notion of willpower isn't a modern invention cooked up by self-help gurus. It stretches back to ancient philosophers. Aristotle praised enkrateia, the mastery over desires, as a virtue essential to the good life. Fast forward to the Stoics, who believed that reason should reign supreme over passions, essentially advocating an early form of cognitive behavioral therapy. In the Victorian era, willpower became a moral badge. The self-made man was lauded for pulling himself up by his bootstraps, a narrative that conveniently ignored structural barriers. The early 20th century saw psychologists like William James dissect habit formation, noting that willpower is the effort of attention needed to break a routine. By the mid-1900s, the famous marshmallow test by Walter Mischel brought willpower into the lab, showing that kids who could delay gratification tended to have better life outcomes. Each era reshaped the metaphor, from a moral compass to a mental muscle. Yet the core question remained: how do we harness this inner force without burning out? The neuroscience of self-control. Now let's peek inside the skull. The prefrontal cortex, PFC, especially the dorsolateral region, acts as the CEO of decision-making, weighing short-term temptations against long-term rewards. When you stare at a chocolate bar and think, "I'll have just one bite," the PFC is busy sending inhibitory signals to the limbic system, the brain's emotional hotspot where the amygdala screams, "Eat it now." Neurotransmitters like dopamine reward immediate gratification, while serotonin helps modulate mood and impulse control. Functional MRI studies show that successful self-control correlates with heightened PFC activity and reduced amygdala response. Conversely, fatigue, stress, or low glucose levels can dampen PFC firing, making the bouncer sleepy and the crowd rowdy. In short, willpower isn't mystical. It's a measurable neural tug-of-war that can be strengthened or weakened by biology and circumstance. The muscle metaphor. Fact or fiction? You've probably heard the advice: treat willpower like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. This idea stems from the ego depletion theory, which posited that self-control draws on a limited resource that gets fatigued with use. Early experiments supported this. Participants who resisted radishes then gave up sooner on unsolvable puzzles. However, later research revealed a more nuanced picture. While short-term bouts of self-control can indeed lead to temporary dips in performance, the depletion effect, mindset matters hugely. People who believe willpower is limitless show less fatigue, suggesting that belief can buffer the resource. Moreover, training regimens like mindfulness meditation or regular aerobic exercise appear to boost baseline PFC functioning, akin to strengthening a muscle over time. So the metaphor isn't wholly false, it's just incomplete. Willpower behaves like a muscle that can grow, but it also responds strongly to how we think about it. The role of beliefs and mindset. Enter the power of expectation. Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset shows that viewing abilities as improvable leads to greater perseverance. Apply that to willpower. If you see it as a skill you can cultivate, you're more likely to persist after a setback. Conversely, a fixed mindset, "I just don't have the willpower," creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. Intriguingly, studies have found that simply reminding participants that willpower is not a limited resource can improve performance on subsequent self-controlled tasks, even when glucose levels are low. This highlights the placebo-like effect of belief. The brain's chemistry shifts when we tell ourselves we can endure. So cultivating a mindset that treats willpower as expandable isn't just motivational fluff, it actually rewires the neural circuits involved in self-regulation. Environmental design, making the easy choice the right one. Relying solely on inner grit is like trying to swim upstream in a storm. A smarter tactic? Shape your surroundings so the path of least resistance leads to your goal. This is choice architecture. Keep the cookie jar on the top shelf, and you'll think twice before grabbing a snack. Place your running shoes beside the bed, and the morning jog becomes the default option. Digital designers use this principle relentlessly. Think of the nudge that makes you accept cookies on a website. In the lab, participants who pre-committed to a workout by paying a non-refundable fee showed higher attendance than those who relied on willpower alone. The takeaway: willpower is a precious resource. Conserve it by engineering environments that minimize temptation and maximize cue-triggered healthy behaviors. You're not cheating, you're being strategically lazy. If you're finding this deep dive into willpower useful, smash that like button, share the video with a friend who's battling the midnight snack urge, and subscribe for more mind-bending explorations. Next, let's look at some practical strategies to boost willpower. Let's translate theory into actionable habits. First, sleep. A well-rested PFC is a sharper bouncer. Aim for 7 to 9 hours. Sleep deprivation cuts glucose to the brain and spikes impulsivity. Second, nutrition. Steady blood glucose fuels self-control. Opt for complex carbs, protein, and healthy fats rather than sugar crashes. Third, mindfulness meditation. Even 10 minutes a day increases PFC thickness and improves emotional regulation. Fourth, implementation intentions. Plain language, if-then plans. If I feel the urge to check social media, then I'll take 3 deep breaths and close the tab. Automate decision-making, reducing the load on willpower. Fifth, self-monitoring. Tracking progress via journals or apps creates feedback loops that reinforce effort. Sixth, social accountability. Sharing goals with a friend raises the stakes. We're less likely to let others down than ourselves. Finally, celebrate small wins. Each success releases dopamine, strengthening the neural pathways linked to self-control. Stack these habits, and you'll find your willpower reservoir less prone to leaks. When willpower fails, understanding the limits. Even the best laid plans can crumble. Why? Because willpower is context sensitive. Stress, loneliness, and fatigue all impair the PFC's inhibitory power. Moreover, conflicting goals create goal competition. Your brain can't simultaneously prioritize binge-watching a series and finishing a report, leading to decision fatigue. Emotional states like sadness or anxiety can trigger impulsive coping mechanisms. Hello, comfort food. Importantly, ego depletion isn't a universal law. It's moderated by motivation and belief. When a task feels meaningful or aligned with identity, people persevere despite fatigue. Recognizing these limits isn't an excuse to give up. It's a cue to deploy the strategies we just discussed. Adjust the environment, recharge with rest, or reframe the task to boost intrinsic motivation. In short, willpower fails when the system is overloaded. The fix is to lighten the load, not to blame the individual. Willpower in the digital age. Our smartphones are both willpower boosters and saboteurs. On one hand, apps that block distracting sites, track habits, or send reminders act as external prefrontal cortexes, offloading self-control demands. On the other hand, the endless scroll, notification pings, and algorithmically curated content exploit our brain's reward pathways, making resistance feel like swimming against a tide. Research shows that frequent media multitasking shrinks gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex, a region linked to error detection and self-regulation. The paradox: we now need willpower to manage the very devices designed to capture our attention. Solutions: digital minimalism, schedule tech-free zones, turn off non-essential notifications, and use grayscale mode to reduce the lure of colorful icons. Treat your phone like a tool, not a tyrant, and you'll reclaim precious cognitive bandwidth for the goals that truly matter. The intersection of willpower and habit formation. Habits are the autopilot of behavior. They bypass the need for willpower altogether. When a cue triggers a routine that yields a reward, the brain shifts control from the PFC to the basal ganglia, making the action almost effortless. The beauty lies in stacking. Use willpower to initiate a new habit. For example, laying out workout clothes the night before. Then let repetition cement it. Over time, the habit loop reduces the cognitive load, freeing willpower for novel challenges. This is why experts advise focusing on one habit change at a time. Spreading willpower thin across multiple new behaviors leads to burnout. By consciously designing habit loops, we transform willpower from a daily struggle into a strategic investment that pays dividends in automaticity. Cultural and philosophical perspectives. Willpower isn't viewed uniformly across the globe. In many Eastern traditions, the emphasis is on harmony and flow rather than brute force resistance. Taoist philosophy talks about Wu Wei, effortless action, suggesting that aligning with the natural order reduces the need for struggle. Confucian thought, meanwhile, stresses self-cultivation through ritual and reflection, a more communal approach to self-control. In Western individualistic cultures, willpower is often moralized, equated with virtue and personal responsibility, which can lead to stigma when someone fails. Anthropologists note that societies with strong communal support systems report higher perceived self-control, hinting that willpower is as much a social construct as a psychological one. Recognizing these lenses helps us avoid a one-size-fits-all mentality and appreciate the diverse ways humans navigate temptation. Measuring willpower. Can we quantify it? Scientists have devised several proxies. The most famous is the delay of gratification task, think marshmallows, where the time weighted indicates self-control capacity. Questionnaire scales like the short self-control scale ask respondents to rate statements such as, "I am good at resisting temptation." Neuroscientists use go/no-go tasks during fMRI to measure inhibitory control, linking reaction times and brain activation to willpower strength. Physiologically, heart rate variability, HRV, serves as a biomarker. Higher HRV correlates with better self-regulation, reflecting a balanced autonomic nervous system. While no single metric captures the full tapestry of willpower, triangulating behavior, self-report, neural data, and physiology offers a robust picture. The takeaway? We can measure aspects of willpower, but the construct remains multidimensional, like trying to weigh a cloud. The future of willpower research. Where is the science heading? Emerging fields are blending neurotechnology with behavioral science. Transcranial direct current stimulation, TDCS, targeting the dorsolateral PFC, shows promise in temporarily boosting inhibitory control, though ethical questions loom. Machine learning models are being trained on multimodal data, smartphone usage, wearable physiology, ecological momentary assessment, to predict moments of self-control failure in real time, enabling just-in-time interventions. Cross-cultural studies are expanding to understand how societal norms shape self-control strategies. Finally, researchers are exploring the genetic epigenetics of willpower, how early life stress or nutrition might set baseline PFC resilience. As we unravel these layers, the goal isn't to create a willpower pill, but to empower individuals with personalized science-backed tools that harmonize biology, mindset, and environment. We've traveled from ancient virtue ethics to neural circuits, debunked the muscle myth, seen how belief reshapes endurance, designed our environments to outsmart temptation, gathered practical habits, examined the digital battlefield, linked willpower to habit loops, appreciated cultural flavors, looked at measurement tools, and glimpsed into futuristic research. The story of willpower is far from a simple tale of grit. It's a dynamic dance between brain, belief, and world. Before we go, if you enjoyed this journey, please hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode of What Is. Drop a comment below with your biggest willpower win or your most epic fail. We love reading your stories. Share this video with anyone who needs a boost of self-control. Thanks for watching, keep exercising that mental muscle, and remember, sometimes the easiest way to strengthen willpower is to make the right choice the easy one. Bonus fact. Here's an interesting nugget. Octopuses exhibit a form of willpower. In experiments, they've learned to open jars to reach a tasty crab, but when researchers delayed the reward by placing a transparent barrier, the octopuses would wait, sometimes for minutes, despite having immediate access to food through a different opening. Their ability to suppress an impulsive grab for a delayed, higher value reward shows that sophisticated self-control isn't exclusive to vertebrates with complex cortices. Even invertebrates with distributed nervous systems can exercise patience. Nature's reminder that willpower, in some shape or form, is a surprisingly ancient survival tool. See you next time.